this week kind of started. So this is our, can you guys see my screen? Andy?
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this is kind of where we started the week. We had a double indexer kind of style mechanism, similar to what the Rembrandts and Spectrum are doing, where they would have multiple paths for the note to go. However, on Saturday, while we were discussing this whole robot, we realized that packaging all of this indexer mechanism over here and then having a shooter all the way out here and just creates so many more problems than it solves. Like we'd have to have an under bumper or underbelly pan electronics mount, and our arm had to be like reconfigured, and then our shooter was also kind of just all over the place. It just seemed really susceptible to jamming, so we decided to kind of scrap this idea and move on. I'm working on an Open Alliance post right now to just share this design with everyone so that they can kind of take a look at it. But yeah, moving on to, I guess, the first design that we made after we decided to scrap that robot. We decided to move our shooter mechanism way further back. So if we hide this, the idea is that the shooter has as few direction changes from the note as possible, and the resting position is the angle to shoot into the speaker from the subwoofer, and that way, like, there's as little spots for the note to get jammed or like clog up and cause us to be unreliable. And this idea was just kind of like a first draft. It wasn't really fleshed out, but the nice thing about this one is that the pivot is over here and the general roller mechanism is pretty like compact. And then Greg built on top of this with his design where he had, so in the previous design, there was an indexer system right here that built on top of the intake rollers, so it was powered by the same motor. So what Greg did was he eliminated that and made the indexing path a little bigger. That way, if we turn the flywheel, the note doesn't bend into an indexer and can feed straight into the flywheel. And I think this seems like a very well fleshed out design that we can use probably for our actual robot. And the nice thing about this new design is that we have significantly more space for all of our electronics in the belly pan, and just being like, we have a lot more space to do stuff and add other mechanisms. And I've kind of taken a like break from CAD because I sank a lot of hours into the other robot designs. But I have been kind of thinking about how we can move forward from this design. And I think maybe this week we could get some of these pivot things fleshed out and like actually tested, maybe at Lamar with the practice robot, because the laser cutter works now. And I think on top of that, what we can do is start working on a basic climber mechanism, because I know one of the debates we've been having is our winch climber even worth it? And like, I guess we've decided that like we also want to have a safe option as well as like a complicated option. And the initial idea, I guess, that Cedric proposed was a like extending telescoping tube. However, I feel like if we're gonna just do a telescoping tube, we'd be better served making an every bot climber, just because it's so much simpler, cheaper, and like easier to build and maintain. So I guess that like it just becomes a question of packaging and mounting. There's a couple of different like designs that we're interested in, like Spectrums, Rembrandts, and the every bot climber. So that's kind of where the CAD's at right now. The arm kind of got scrapped for the time being. If we have more space after, we'll think about the trap, but right now it's kind of off the table.
Any overall questions from people before we get into detail?
I have a question about the shooter actually. So, Sid, for the previous design that you showed, mainly for like Greg's, if you were to like go with a shooter that short, are we gonna like eliminate the option of scoring into the amps or not?
So the idea is it shouldn't. We're thinking about ways to just have the amp deflector part be over here so that we shoot into the
Oh,
amp.
it's gonna bounce
And then
back to that. Right.
yeah, so like in this space over here, we'd have some sort of flap that just allowed the note to slide back down into the amp. Um, so nothing actively trying to score in the amp yet. And if we do have space for an arm, which I'm pretty sure we will, we can probably figure something out that way. But until we get to a point where the shooter is ready to go, I think we'll just stick with shooting into the amp if need be.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that I think we can work on this week in terms of design, climber and arm/amp mechanisms.
I think having a basic sketch just to show amp, and then like a line up to the speaker, and then also maybe like the chain height.
Mm-hmm.
You can quickly see like, okay, here's where all the elements that we're going to be interacting are going to be, so we can get an idea. Maybe even if we human feed, could we feed into the shooter, that kind of thing. Just having all those dimensions lined out will help us understand what this thing do, and is there something that we're missing.
Okay.
Before we get too deep into the CAD, because we might decide we need to change some big dimensions here.
Mm-hmm.
Where everything lines up. This right now in this position, under the chain, or does it need to pivot and go under the chain?
Let's see. Oh. My computer's running a little slow today.
Well, either way, we got to build a sketch.
Yeah.
And the speaker.
It's 26 inches, so it should go under the chain. Yeah, no problem.
And that's an interesting idea, right? If we had some sort of flat extension, do we have something from this pivot point that could reach the chain? And then if we wanted to do a winch, we pivot with this arm to enable the hook, winch up from there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we do need to really think about all these different options and the climbers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we really need to build something pretty quickly on this shooter so we can convince ourselves that we've seen it to do what we expect it to do. So I think you guys need to just reach a point where you're like, you might change a little bit, but the basic, flywheels and how we're spinning the motor, one or two indexers, that's going to be about the same. Build that, and we test shooting with it to make sure what we expected. And then if we need to we'll probably make version 2 that fits a little better.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you guys hand that off. I mean, do you think you can take what you have here?
I think, yeah. I think this.
Sebastian, look at it, check it, and then the process of laser cutting and getting things out.
I think they could definitely take a look at that. Yeah.
I think that's a good thing to hand off so you guys can just focus on finalizing the whole CAD.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to get as much of the systems in place where we feel like we just can't make many huge changes anymore. We've decided things. I think we're still up in the air on a lot of items.
Yeah, we've been changing the CAD a lot recently, and that's not really conducive to us getting anything done.
Well, the good thing is the ground looked like it had a successful test. Does everyone agree, or I didn't really get to see all the tests?
When we ran it off the battery, it was significantly better than the drill test, and it looked pretty good for where I was.
What motor was it that we had on there?
A 775, and it was like a 10-to-1 reduction, I think.
5. So it's actually kind of slow compared to what a lot of things are running. And you don't
Yeah.
have any grip. And it picked up without any issue.
Correct.
Do we think it makes sense to duplicate this and mount it onto and start building this structure so it matches up with the west side chassis so they can drive test with just an intake?
I don't know if we have the materials at Westside at the moment to do that, because I don't think we brought much acrylic or dead axle roller. So,
How are you guys putting it?
oh well, we took acrylic from Lamar last time. I don't know if we took any this time.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, even if you do have that acrylic, you still need to build a superstructure. So do you have like 1x1?
We can probably find some. We can find some.
I think that might be a good task, is for you guys to start making the bumper skirt and have it ready to go on the practice. So when you do get these laser cut, just slap on the intake plates. And I guess there's a lot of pieces that would be missing, right? The intake rollers, getting all.
Yeah.
I doubt you guys even have all those tubes, right?
No, yeah. We might have some, but not much.
But if you just start building all the other pieces, eventually we can swap it on there,
Mm-hmm.
start testing.
Yeah.
Even the Lamar one, we might upgrade the Lamar one into
Polycarb.
polycarb, and then just take the whole version 1 intake that's a little rough anyway, and just give that to the west side swerve, and hopefully we fix some roller issues and some clearance issues that we have in the polycarb version. Would be more final anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, to do that, you guys need to have a bumper skirt out so you can quickly catch on.
Yeah.
Anybody have thoughts on? I know there was some discussion about climbing. Let's just kind of get into it. DiscoBots climber, which is a pretty simple telescoping climb. If you've seen the video, winch climb where we have a cable that hooks on, and then we drive the winch up with a big road cable. Any, plus or minus between those two?
I think for the time being, we can build a winch, or like we can build an everybot climber. It would be like something that the people at Lamar might be able to do if they're able to. Like, because most of the stuff you can just get at the hardware store if we don't already have it. So I think perhaps that's something that the Lamar people could look into, and we could just have an example climber, and if everything else like fails, we can use that as a climber, and then we can work on the winch in the meantime.
That's fair.
Another climber that I really liked was Spectrum's climber. Let me pull up a picture real quick. But basically they're using like chain to drive back like a they're using chain to like pull their robot down diagonally, and it like gets them the height pretty quickly, and it gets them like closer to the trap to score in the trap, which I think is a pretty interesting concept. Now, we can't do it to the same extent that they do, because they're because they have like space across their entire robot to get down. But I think we could probably do like an abbreviated, steeper angle version of this, and it would be decently successful. because it's just a linear slide bearing on a chain, which has been fastened with one of those number 25 chain fasteners.
Yep, I think there's a lot going on there. I don't know if we could pull it quickly.
Yeah. This would definitely be like a stretch goal. But I think
Let's just say if we don't have this planned out properly by Saturday, doing stretch things is going to be really tight.
yeah.
So, I mean, let's think about where we want to be, right? So looking at going to a competition in the last 2 weekends of March, we really want to have the robot done by March, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can have 2 weeks to test. We got spring break. We got all those stuff. So we're literally 3 weeks away from the end of March, maybe a week and a half or so, right? So by next Saturday, which is the 10th, we need to have a plan of what we're going to build. And if we work hard and get everything on those steps done, we might have a robot that has most of the mechanisms built out, and we have 2 weeks to test it in March.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of where we should start driving our schedule. Like, what do we think we can do in the next 2 or 3 weeks so we can be there, and hopefully not be making changes by.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I think we can probably talk about driving because most of the young people are here right now. So if you want to just kind of outline like the process of driving for them, because none of them have done FRC before.
Yeah, I think our rule is going to be we're really going to avoid seniors driving because we really want to pass the torch, and we haven't done a great job of doing that in previous years. I mean, I guess technically we didn't really have any seniors driving last year, but we really would like younger class driving and build off of it so we can be ready for future years with it. Just make sure you talk to Adrian and get some time on the sticks, and then we'll probably come up with like a obstacle routine and start talking to people to see how fast you can do it. We'll just look at the numbers and see if it's like they're the most ready. If you want to get some experience, I really recommend watching the matches and then hopefully getting to see simulator, like almost like a video game. Practice just driving, get a feel for how it goes. Maybe let me know that you're interested, and I can start getting this together of all the people who are interested and selecting candidates. And then robots. We have a swerve driver now, right? So we can start doing a lot of practice on soon. Maybe by March we should get the selection done, and that will just be the team, and they just need to practice. Make sure we can practice like that in March. So there's a little criteria, I guess, on who's if you're gonna go situation. But if you're interested, to start with, just send me a start doing my selection process and work out. Any other CAD discussion here? Does anyone have any issues with the ground intake that we put together?
We might want some centering wheels on it at some point, but that can be added later.
Do Do we know why one of them was kind of tight? Like one of the rollers was pretty tight.
Yeah, there were some spacers that were 3D printed, and they were rubbing against the outside, the spinny part of the bearing, and so that was the cause of the issue. I think we just need the right spacers, and I think we just didn't use the right spacers for that.
And what does Lamar need to do on Tuesday? This work, drivetrain, and have the ground intake.
The shooter, probably. Get the
The shooter?
yeah, print the shooter and get started on the superstructure, because by Tuesday, I think the superstructure for the shooter pivot will be ready to go.
Yeah, I think both things plus finishing setting up our programming environment and taking a look at the code. That's what we're probably gonna do.
I think we need to also get the power switch and power distribution board, get the wiring process so we can drive this work robot.
Yeah, I don't know how many electronics we have at Lamar currently.
Lots of we found all the components, right? I mean, we have all the pieces.
We found most of it except just a few Spark Maxes we couldn't find.
For Spark mixes. Hopefully we'll get them in soon, but for now, if we get the power switch mounted, we get the power distribution board. So maybe you need to send Lamar like where the power switch needs to go. We need to think all that out. So by Tuesday, mounted to that frame, they can focus on the battery, the power distribution board, and making the wires between the battery and the switch.
Mm-hmm.
The robot power.
Sounds good.
That should be the focus, Guillermo, is trying to get that robot, get the electronics pieces going, so we can start that scroll drive. Because if we find an issue with that scroll drive, like let's say our modules are bad, we need to get on it immediately. And get that solution.
Yeah, we can work on that.
Yeah, I don't know what the shooter's going to be in, but if it is in the state, I think it's probably more important still to get the drivetrain functional. Westside can still send you stuff to the shooter if you guys have more time for the shooter as well. Where are all the components for the shooter? Do we remember who had that? Sebastian, did you guys have all the wheels and stuff?
I think we're just going to use 3-inch rev wheels, but that might have changed on Saturday.
In the CAD, right? It's 3-inch?
They're Coulson wheels right now, but they're 3-inch wheels. Yeah. Because
Fine. We got a bunch of 3-inch, so where are they? Some of the Coulsons are at
Yeah, we have some of them.
Some of the wheels are at Westside, and some of them are still at my house.
Well, make sure they end up back at Westside if you're going back there. All the components. Westside wants to print a shooter. Part. Start thinking about what we're missing and send me a list. I feel like we're starting to grow a list of, we need more like churro tube. We need someone put together a thought process of what we could use. You might have to pick that number, but tell me, hey, we're short on these things that we were looking for on Saturday. We're gonna need more. So I can start ordering. Anything come to mind right now?
belts. We're going to need a lot of belts. All right.
The CAD to belt process worked well. I mean, right? The ground intake.
Yeah.
All those belts fit, and it can be tricky to get the belts to fit line and be the right size. So I'm glad to see that it worked properly the first time.
It took a lot of finagling.
Just having a process is the first stage. A lot of times it doesn't fit, and then we go back to the CAD.
Mm-hmm.
So who's setting the electronic stuff? In charge that. We really would like to have the full power switch.
I can figure that out probably.
Okay, yeah, let's try to get those plans over tomorrow by work.
Okay.
What to install. And then Sebastian, Watzel, can you guys look over the shooter and be ready to work on that and start 15 slot pieces on Tuesday there?
Yes.
Yeah.
What else? Who else is working on CAD components? I don't know who else we have on the call.
I want to look into the shooter with them actually. If you have another space for people.
Where are you gonna be, Sim? Are you gonna be at Lamar?
Well, I can be on like both schools depending on who's gonna meet first. So if they're are you guys gonna work on the shooter at Lamar or Westside?
I guess it's up to you, whichever one you want to go to.
Okay.
I think Westside's probably gonna be working on it more. So if you want to go there, that's.
Then I'll go to Westside.
I don't know if Greg will be there this week because he has work usually every other Tuesday, and I have rehearsal on Tuesday, so it just depends. We'll update you on that, Sam.
Well, hopefully Cedric can carry the torch a little bit from whatever Greg can do. So,
Mm-hmm.
we just need a number of CAD people there to kind of lead the charge and follow along with what you're doing.
Okay.
But Les, I see you just joined. We're talking about sending the plans for the power switch and power distribution cord to Lamar on Tuesday, so they know how to install that and build it out, so we can hopefully get the drivetrain running soon.
Okay, so like it's a mounting plate for the PDP, and okay, yeah, sorry, that's good. It sounds like we could cut it on acrylic.